Two towns sit 5 kilometers apart. Same climate, same soil, same access to water. One has paved roads, a working hospital, and businesses that trade across the region. The other relies on a single dirt track, and a package that reaches the first town in 2 days takes 3 weeks to arrive, if it arrives at all. The difference is not resources, it is not culture, it is not ambition. The difference is a line on a map, a border. Borders do more than separate countries. They determine what can move, how fast, at what cost, and for whom. And those 4 questions decide something much larger. Who gets richer and who stays poor? To understand why some borders create wealth while others create poverty, we start with the map. Some borders follow rivers, mountain ranges, or coastlines, natural divisions that existed long before anyone drew a line. Others were drawn in distant capitals by people who had never seen the land, straight lines across deserts, forests, and communities that had traded for centuries. Where a border falls matters enormously. A border that follows a mountain pass controls movement through the only viable route. A border drawn through flat farmland may separate a farmer from the market they have supplied for generations. But the location is only the beginning. The map sets the stage. The mechanism reveals the consequences. A border is not simply a line. It is a filter. When a shipment reaches a border, several things must happen. Documents must be verified. Standards must be checked. Fees may apply. Regulators from one country must coordinate, or fail to coordinate, with regulators from the other. For some goods and some routes, this takes minutes. For others, it takes days. And every hour of delay is a cost, in fuel, in storage, in spoiled produce, in missed delivery windows. Now multiply that cost across thousands of shipments, across hundreds of borders, across decades. The difference between a fast crossing and a slow one compounds into something much larger than inconvenience. It compounds into an economic structure. A predictable border invites investment. A manufacturer can build a factory knowing that components will arrive on schedule. A farmer can plant crops knowing the harvest will reach buyers. An unpredictable border does the opposite. It raises the cost of doing business in ways that are hard to measure and harder to insure against. This is why geography begins to connect with power. A country that sits between important markets does not need to be large or rich to have influence. It only needs to control a route that others depend on. The Suez Canal handles roughly 12% of global trade. The Strait of Malacca connects the Indian Ocean to the South China Sea. The Panama Canal links the Atlantic to the Pacific. These are not large pieces of territory, they are narrow corridors. But control over a corridor creates leverage and vulnerability. The more the global economy depends on a single route, the more damaging any disruption becomes. A canal closure, a political crisis, a port shutdown. Any of these can ripple through supply chains across continents within days. A border, then, is not just a national concern. It is a node in a global system. And the rules at that node, who enforces them, how predictably, at what cost, shape outcomes far beyond the checkpoint itself. Nowhere is the economic weight of borders clearer than in landlocked countries. A landlocked country must reach the sea through a neighbor. Its exports must cross at least one border before they can reach a port, and often more than one. Each crossing adds paperwork, inspections, fees, and the risk of delay. The numbers are stark. Landlocked countries face transport costs roughly 50% higher than the global average. Their imports wait twice as long to arrive. Trade between landlocked countries can be reduced by up to 80% simply because of the additional costs of land transit. To understand why this matters, consider distance differently. Distance is not measured only in kilometers. It is measured in fuel, storage, insurance, paperwork, waiting time, and uncertainty. A landlocked country may be physically close to a port, but the practical journey can be far longer and far more expensive than the map suggests. A border, then, is not just a line. It is a cost multiplier. And for countries that already have limited resources, every multiplier pushes prosperity, pursuing prosperity, away. But geography is not destiny. The same physical border can produce very different outcomes depending on the institutions around it. A reliable agreement can make a border feel closer. Coordinated customs can turn a crossing that once took days into one that takes hours. Digital trade systems can allow some services to cross without a container at all. This is why infrastructure should be understood as more than concrete and steel. It is a system of trust. A road matters when it connects to another road. A port matters when customs, rail, finance, and information systems work with it. Institutions change the practical map. The physical geography may remain the same, but the economic distance can shrink. This brings us to the question at the heart of the framework. Why do some borders enrich while others impoverish? Three factors separate the winners from the rest. First, reach. Can producers in this country get their goods to paying customers at a competitive cost? Second, predictability. Are the rules at the border stable, transparent, and consistently enforced? Third, diversification. Does access create a broad network of suppliers, industries, and skills, or does it simply move raw materials out and money through a narrow channel? When reach is limited, predictability is low, and diversification is absent, a border does not connect. It encloses. When all three factors are present, a border becomes a bridge. The line on the map shifts from barrier to asset. The map matters, but the map is not the conclusion. The real story is what people, institutions, and businesses build across it. The routes they connect, the friction they remove, the productive networks they create. Borders are not simply obstacles to overcome. They are choices about access, about rules, about who participates and who is left outside. Those choices, repeated millions of times every day at crossings around the world, determine which countries get richer and which fall further behind. That is the geography of wealth, not geography as destiny, geography as a starting point, a set of advantages, constraints, and choices that shape what becomes possible. If you want to keep exploring the forces that shape the world economy, subscribe to Atlas Insights. And in the comments, name one border you think has had the biggest economic impact on the countries it separates, and tell us why.